the rookies have been fun to watch, and you just heard that from Drake Maye. More on it in a moment, but let's watch the game against the Commanders. Jacoby Brissett starting for the Pats, opening drive, dumping it off to Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, really nice job by Jacoby. The veteran presence realizes pressure there, gets it out, and then the lack of everyone being on their assignment leads to him taking that huge shot.
Clearly in some pain. We'll get an update on his injury in a moment with Adam. So then Brissett going deep here to KJ Osborne, but
this is nice to see, though, because this is after the injury. That's a really impressive throw downfield, down the sideline into a small window.
Now it's time for the rookie Drake Maye. Maye scrambling right here up the middle, 17 yards. I could watch this play over and over again.
Great instincts. You know, he drops back, handles protection, goes to make the throw, not there, takes off, and then the play action underneath center. Can't throw it better to Polk on the cross. So that's my favorite play of the afternoon for Drake Maye.
He's making a case. The next play, though, he fumbles a snap, but still able to recover it. You'll see it right here. The second bobbled snap of the drive. You expect some of these mistakes, right? It's preseason too. Later in the drive, second and 10 from the Commanders' 18. That complete to Kevin Harris. He breaks the tackle, dives into the end zone for the touchdown. And then Mayo talking about his quarterbacks today. Listen to this.
Jacoby may come in here today. We got in at 4 o'clock in the morning. May come in today saying, you know, his shoulder is no good, or, you know, so I'm not going to get too far down the road on if Jacoby could play or couldn't play. What I will say is that this is a true competition. It wasn't fluff or anything like that. It's a true competition. And I would say at this current point, Drake has outplayed Jacoby. Now I'm saying that we have to take in the full body of work, you know, going all the way back to the spring and the beginning of training camp, and we'll see where we end up. But those are the conversations that will happen here over the next couple of days.
Pretty revealing, okay? And Coach Mayo's right. Maye has certainly outplayed Brissett. If you look at the preseason numbers, the Patriots scored 0 points in 5 drives with Brissett as quarterback. He averaged just 2.6 yards per attempt. Now, Maye led 10 drives. The Patriots scored 17 points, and he averaged over twice as many yards per attempt. Adam, what do we know, first of all, about Brissett's health, where things stand at the quarterback position as well in New England?
Well, Laura, after the game, Drake Maye said that if it were a regular season game, that Jacoby Brissett could have come back into the game and played. Now, obviously, he was going to go through additional testing. Hasn't yielded anything just yet, but we'll wait to see if there are any further updates. The Patriots were led to believe it was not a serious injury, certainly not as serious as it looked last night when he went down and reached for his left shoulder in pain. Now, going forward, we'll see what Drake Maye decides to do here. He did mention that Drake Maye has outplayed Jacoby Brissett, but he also talked during the day about the fact that it's not all about performance, that there are other factors, that they don't want to have to rush Drake Maye before he's ready. They don't want to have to expose him to certain situations, and they want to make what is the best decision for the New England Patriots. And with the Patriots scheduled to open on the road in Cincinnati, that's a tough assignment for a rookie quarterback, despite the fact that Drake Maye, in their minds, has outplayed Jacoby Brissett this summer.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how this thing's going to play out. Dan, whenever Maye does end up playing, right, we saw some real progress from the rookie this preseason. Yeah. What stood out to you?
His feet, being in balance, being in structure. This goes back to the draft process. And one of the things that constantly talked about with Drake Maye was, even if he's throwing a relatively simple route, a curl or a stop route up top, that his feet, even though he's an unbelievable athlete, would get out of sorts. And the biggest problem was they would get too narrow and he would stand straight up. That was the big thing for me when I would pay attention to Drake Maye, was he's 6'5", and so his feet would be so often inside the framework of his body, and that would force him to have almost straight legs. And when that happens, his feet would be all over the place. There'd be a lack of consistency, and then all those moving parts, the variables attached to that, would lead to inaccurate throws. And people would say, well, he's an inaccurate thrower. No, he's not. He's just got poor footwork. And so then from the draft process to this past weekend, really, has that gotten better? Underneath center play action, something I've talked about since the start of this process, him doing a little bit more of. Now, here's a couple parts of this that I love. He gets to the top of his drop. Now, take that picture in comparison to the last one. The one in college, he's straight legs standing up and his feet are so narrow. This one, he's got great bend in his legs, and that's going to allow him, I mean, this pass rusher wins on the outside, to be ready to throw and to be strong in the pocket to climb. So he's got a great balance there. The second thing is, look how his feet stay spread apart. Again, the flex in the knees. The mechanics of the lower half have gotten so much better in a 5 or 6 month period that as he goes to rip this crosser, his back leg actually comes off the ground and he throws an absolutely perfect throw to Jalen Polk down the field. And that's a much more difficult throw than the stop route he threw against Syracuse in college. And so the big takeaway is that Drake Maye and the Patriots and his personal people have said, hey, we got to get this fixed, because I always say this, I don't care how talented you are. If you don't set a good foundation for yourself to have consistency, the talent never shows itself on a regular basis. That is something that he's obviously attacked.
Yeah, and now putting it into an actual game, not even just a preseason game.
Not a drill.
Right. Credit, though, to Ben McAdoo, their quarterback coach. I'm sure he's had a big play in this. Mina, how should Mayo handle this situation, though? What do you do here?
I'm so torn on this
too.
because I think Drake Maye has been outstanding this preseason for all the reasons Dan just highlighted. That play action, the under center play action throw, the crosser to Polk. I mean, that is the bedrock on which this Patriots offense, led by Alex Van Pelt, coming from Cleveland, will be built. And we didn't even show the play he made out of structure when the defense didn't set an edge. He was able to escape, and he hit KJ Osborne on the extending the play. But the reason we didn't show it is because it was called back because of a penalty on the offensive line, and that brings me to the reason why you don't start Drake Maye if they don't. I don't think it's because of Jacoby Brissett. I think it's because this offensive line might be non-functional. I mean, they were playing against Washington's backups, and yet there were miscues, blown blocks, penalties upon penalties upon penalties. Yes, they didn't have their starting center, David Andrews, but what I saw was deeply concerning, especially when you consider a young quarterback whose development is really the future of this franchise.
Let's start with Anthony Richardson, who was asked about some of his off-target passes.
I'm going to miss some passes. The receiver's going to drop some. We're going to drop the ball sometimes, but it's cool. Stuff like that going to happen. And then when it comes to people just talking, man, that don't really faze me much because people have been talking pretty much my whole life. So it's like, okay, just add fuel to the fire. I'm just going to do me and just keep doing me no matter what anybody else says. So I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in Indy is for everyone to get on the same page. When you as an offense give your offensive skill players flexibility after the snap to change your routes, both the quarterback and receiver got to see it the same way. The tight end has a little bit of a sit here. Now Indy gives them the freedom to pull away from coverage. Anthony expects him to sit there. He throws one route. The receiver, the tight end, runs a different route. Then there's a pick six. Now A.D. Mitchell, their rookie, on the crossing route. It's man coverage. If the defender stays on your back hip, you want to flatten this. Well, Anthony throws it a little higher, thinking he's going to go upfield. A.D. flattens it. I'm a fan of A.D.'s there. Anthony's got to see it the same way. This time, A.D. in the slot. The defense is going to play man under two safeties. You're going to see Anthony Richardson try to split those safeties with the ball in between that hash, but AD stops his feet thinking he's going to pull away. And so 3 examples of where you might sit there and go, oh my gosh, Anthony Richardson, how did you miss those throws? It's really more about both pass catcher and quarterback seeing the defense change and seeing it at the same time properly more than an inaccurate throw.
With his injury last year, too, trying to get on the same page, give him some grace, they'll get there. How about Bryce Young, by the way, a standout preseason performance that had his head coach, Dave Canales, excited?
Oh, it was great, right? Couldn't have dreamt it better. A nice long drive, 12 plays to get the guys some good work, get them tired in the drive, a 4th down conversion in there, but saw him extend plays with his legs, keeping his eyes down the field, finding guys.
Mina, what did you make of your first look at Bryce Young and that Dave Canales offense?
Yeah, I'm with Dave. I thought he looked decisive, and then when he had to extend, particularly on the 4th down, you saw some of that playmaking you saw in college. What I was really interested, Laura, though, in seeing what this Dave Canales offense would look like, because Dave, he worked under Shane Waldron with the Rams, so there's that DNA, but what he did in Tampa was different. And I think what we saw that I found really interesting, and Dan, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is they're getting to the play-action passing game out of the gun and the pistol, because last year the Panthers had a lot of trouble. They wanted Bryce in the gun for, I think, obvious reasons, or pistol, but they couldn't really get to the play-action passing attack from there, so the passing game and the run game felt siloed. What I saw, admittedly, in just one drive is that they are figuring out a way to sort of marry those things, and I think that's going to be really good for Bryce this year.
Yeah, specifically to the gun play action. I've always been a believer it's way better out of the pistol if you're trying to go downhill than an offset, or if it's an offset back, meaning to the side of the quarterback, you really want it to be a big-time horizontal stretch. So I agree with the play action stuff. I also love the different cut splits they got the receivers in. I don't know if they necessarily we'll see with Xavier Legette how just physically dominant he can be, but how much can they help those receivers get away from some coverages and some hands-on defensive technique. I think the biggest thing was Bryce looked like a guy that believed in the play calls and the people around him.
Yes.
And there wasn't a ton of examples of that last year.
Yeah, remember, his best trait being his brain. So get him back to that, being able to anticipate. You saw little inklings of it.